Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to song number 4. If you haven't watched the other videos, I'm making an instrumental album for a college project, and I definitely recommend that you watch these videos because they go very specific into the process of writing, recording, and mastering the music, and it's very helpful if you want to make music from home. And for this song, I'm going to make an ambient song because, variety. And I love ambient music. It's calming, it's beautiful, it's simple, but it's kind of boring. If you want to actually listen to something and actively pick out things that you like about the music, ambient music is the worst genre in the world for it because it's absolutely simple and slow and there's rarely any melody to it. So I'm going to make this a challenge of sorts. I want to make a song that's mostly ambient in nature, but interesting enough for people to be able to actively listen to it and find things about it that they like without it just being simple notes. Obviously, I want it to be enjoyable as well. And as you know, I try to find as many alternatives to drums as I can since I don't own a drum kit anymore. And for this one, I'm going to use a unique strumming pattern on guitar that kind of simulates a bass and snare drum. And I'm also going to do any sort of percussion like claps and things like that that I can do without any equipment whatsoever. The guitar pattern looks a little something like this. So the way this guitar strumming pattern works, it involves a lot of using this part of your hand right before your knuckles and your thumb. And what you're actually doing is you're hitting your thumb to make the bass drum and your fingers to make the snare. So if I wanted to play a really simple drum beat, it would sound something like this. And it doesn't really sound quite right on the amp that I'm using because it's just on an acoustic setting. But if I kind of mess with the inserts on Cubase, it'll probably come out with this sound being a lot higher pitch. And I can always double up the drums to do, something like that. So I know that in the other songs I've mostly stuck to either strictly keyboards or strictly guitar or mostly keyboards, but in this one I'm going to try to make it as equal as possible for both instruments. And naturally this starts with a simple chord progression that I'm going to find on a keyboard setting, and I haven't decided which one it is yet, but I'm going to go figure that out now. Okay, now that I've come up with a very basic chord progression, I'm going to double that up with the guitar, but I'm going to do it a little different. I'm going to start it off by playing individual strings in the pattern of that chord, and then I'm going to add the drum beat with the entire chord after about 4 progressions of it. Now what I'm going to do is add more chords, but these chords will be variations of those original basic chords. So instead of just E minor, I might play something like E minor ninth, or instead of C major, maybe C sustained. And I know that I didn't mention this in the last video where I taught basic music theory, but these chords are a little more advanced and I didn't want to spend too much time away from the song to talk about these. I will, however, leave a website in the description. This website tells you all of the notes that make up a lot of different chords, and as long as you know the notes on the instrument of your choice, you can learn any of them. Anyway, I'm going to go find those chords and then I'll get back to you. Now most ambient music, if it has a melody, it's very slow and simple and kind of boring, and I want to do that a little bit differently. And I want to have a melody that's a little more complex. I'm not sure how that's going to sound, all things considered, but we'll figure it as we go. I think this might sound a little bit off-putting, but I kind of want to have more than one melody playing at the same time, so I'm going to write one for keyboard and one on guitar that kind of works well with each other and see how that sounds. Now that I have 2 rhythm keyboard tracks, 2 rhythm guitar tracks, 2 melodies, and 2 extras as drum filler, I think I'm going to add some of those weird synth effects that are built into the software Cubase. In one of the other videos I mentioned that there's built-in instruments that you can just add where you want the notes to go. I did it with drums on my last song, The Paywall. But there's more than just drums on it. You can do keyboards, you can do weird sounds, you can do anything from guitar to strings to I'm sure dog barking or whatever. And I want to find something that I can add to the overall song that would be kind of calming and really add to the ambient feeling of the song. But with those built-in instruments, I want to find maybe one or two unique instruments that I can't use on my keyboard or guitar, and maybe just one or two of the sound effects that I can find that I like, and just put them to the overall sound of the song and see how it comes out. So as you can see, I have a ton of instruments made, whether you can see that they have a thing made for them or not right now. Really quickly, I just wanted to go through all the inserts that I used for each instrument, because that actually did have a lot of effect on what happened in the song. This first basic keyboard just played the simple chord progression the whole way through, and I used this reverb called Helm's Deep, which gave it a really crazy echo feeling. I did the same thing with the more intricate chords to keep things relatively close together for those two. Here I made a copy of that track so that I could easily copy and paste this by playing one or two of the chord progressions and then just copying and pasting it down to this one. It's easier to do it that way just in case you make a mistake about halfway through the song, then you'd have to either deal with it or restart, and I feel like this just makes it sound a little more correct the entire way through, I guess. I ended up naming this track Noodle. I'm not entirely sure why, but this is me picking the individual strings of the chord progression at the beginning. Here I have the same Helm's Deep reverb, and I added a chorus effect. Again, wanted to play this chord progression without screwing it up too much, so I just repeated it with a copy and paste function. The basic guitar rhythm has the same things because it's basically the same track. Basically, it's just a different way of playing it, and I wanted to separate those two for my own benefit. And again, a copy of that. Here's the separate but more intricate guitar chords. Yes, I labeled them as cool guitar rhythm. This one I added a phaser along with a different chorus. And again, copies. Drums, I added a bass boost and a separate reverb that was a little less. The one, the Helm's Deep that I was using for the other one has a bit of a delay on it, and I didn't want the delay on the drums. And everything else I kind of just kept the same because I didn't want to mess with the built-in instruments too much. I will, however, mention the melodies that I made. This one had a separate chorus, and this one had a solo delay, which I thought kind of helped add to the resonating feeling of the song. And again, copies and things that I didn't want to mess up too much. And that's basically it the entire way through. I changed the tempo to almost half of what I'm used to, because when you open a Cubase project, normally it starts with a tempo of about 120, but I came down here and adjusted it to 70 because I wanted it to have a more relaxed type of tempo. You can see how that changes if I keep it fixed or not. You can see here that I used the fade in rather than a fade out. In my other track, especially in Visio Motor Values, I had a lot of quote-unquote fade outs that would just drop the volume completely, but rather than having the volume steadily drop at the end, I have it steadily come up at the beginning because I was kind of messing with the strings right in here and you could hear it, and I just didn't want that to be a part of the track. If we look here at the melodies, you can see first I started off with the guitar melody, then I moved to the keyboard melody, and then at the end I actually ended up playing both of them together before ending the song. I thought that was an interesting way to just kind of have that big finish type feeling to it, and I really like the way it turned out, so I'm going to keep it that way. Alright, I think we're done with it. I dig this, actually. I was really worried that it was going to come out too boring to listen to, and I was worried that I wasn't going to be able to make it interesting. But I think I made something worth listening to with this, and I'm pretty proud of it. I still find the song to be calming and comforting, but I'm glad I was able to add a lot more to such a simple genre and add my own unique twists to it and that kind of thing. And in the spirit of the first video, I'm going to go make a bunch of random nature footage outside and use that as the video part while you listen to the song. Here goes. Well, there it is. That's my song that I've called Catharsis. 4 down, 1 to go. And once I get that last making of video put on YouTube, then I'll put the entire album out for free on all of the music sharing websites, and I'll put it on this channel that you can listen to for free. Thank you so much for watching. Stick around for that last song. It's going to be great. And take it easy.